All things considered, I really wanted to like this anime, though it is really flawed, and I think the test of time already says everything. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb Initiative. I'm your host, The Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week I'll be talking about, following our last episode, the actual first season of Wake Up Girls. So before I even start, first off, disclaimer, spoiler alert, I'll be talking about most of the things that happened in this first season. I will not enter too much in the details because I don't actually feel like this is really important, but I will only talk about the general events, not really anything too much in the depths of it, though it might get to some points that I may need to explain a lot of stuff. That being said, I will be only talking about the first season Wake Up Girls, the actual Wake Up Girls, and just disclaimer for the next episode and some of the next episodes. Really, I will not be talking about Wake Up Girls Zoo because from my research it is the equivalent for Idolmaster's Punchimas, and I think Love Live also had one. I don't actually remember which one it is. I know that Nijigasaki has Nijigasaki-on, that is the equivalent, the chibi kind of more comedy centered series for the girls of the respective series. So for this one is Wake Up Girls Zoo, and I will not be reviewing that because, come on, it's not really an idol thing, really. But that being said, let's start with the stats. And so this first season, Wake Up Girls, came out in January 2014 and ended in March 2014. It has 12 episodes, no OVAs, no extras, no nothing. It was done by Studio Ordet in partnership with Tatsunoko Production, the same as the movie. It came out from the article here literally one day after the film aired originally, released originally. So there's that, and basically the cast is the same, the whole production crew is the same. The movie, as I already said, it was really just a rough introduction to the anime, to the series itself, and for the most part in this first, let's say, this first season that released, they will cite it, they will mention it a lot. It is like the first thing that you need to actually see of the series to actually understand it. And I need to stop right here and say, if you are trying to follow me in this journey and actually watching the animes I'm talking about, please go watch the movie if you haven't already, because the references at the beginning of the series are really heavy on the movie, so you need to have the concepts they present beforehand. And for the most part, when I noticed that, it was when I noticed that I needed to actually watch the movie. Like when I started this, I started before I watched the movie, and then I noticed that I needed to watch the movie to understand most of the things they said at the beginning, and so things rolled out that way. With that said, the cast is the same, the production crew is the same, so let's get to the story. The story follows up on the movie, is strictly after, and tells the story of Green Leaves Productions and our 7 girls. No particular orders this time. Mayu, Airi, Minami, Yoshino, Nanami, Kaya, and Miyu, which are our 7 heroines that we will see grow up and develop in this anime. And here is the first major spoiler. If you haven't watched the movie, last warning, go watch the movie now before I say this. You have been warned. So the movie ends with Tange Junko, the president of Green Leaves Entertainment, the woman that basically runs the whole company. She runs off with basically all the money from the company and leaves the girls and Matsuda Kohei, our, let's say, manager, to actually fend for themselves with a concert already being planned at the end of the year and not really having any money for costumes or anything really. They have just the CDs and nothing else. In that situation, they still do the concert, but the future of the group is uncertain. And at this point, till I think episode 2, Junko is out of the picture and basically she took all the money with her. That being said, we start the first episode with basically somewhat of a recap of the movie in some ways and seeing how everything just goes to the point that Matsuda has to actually, let's say, be responsible for the girls and actually have to find work for them and actually try to earn money by themselves. With that comes some weird stuff that I will discuss a bit later, but they need to actually find work. The girls have this really fractured, let's say, vision of the whole thing because they just did their debut and their first concert. They have their first song, they actually like it. Me personally, I think the first song was pretty good, but they don't actually have money, and so there's this prospect of maybe the group is not going to survive this ordeal. And for the most part, the first episode is just the girls talking about this kind of stuff, Matsuda trying to struggle around with it, and they actually get a visitor at the end of the first episode that is, let's say, their first employer. Let's say he has a gig for them, and from then on, the story kind of goes the way it is. I will try to comment over a bit of the overarching story and the whole thing, and then we go to the nitty-gritty, because from the second episode forward, there are a lot of problems going on with this. So basically what they do in this first season, second entry, is that they start the season more or less, I think, 3 episodes in to kind of develop the overall group, to actually present more things that weren't like really important in the movie. So as I talked in the review for the movie, most of the girls don't actually have a proper introduction. They don't actually have development. They don't actually show their plights, their situations, their circumstances, and so on and so forth. And for the most part, this first 3-4 episodes in this first season, they are basically to kind of set up to actually present more of the girls that weren't present in the movie, really, because for the most part we don't actually know them that well. And for what's worth, the main thing with an idol anime, I think, is for you to root for the heroines, and so they actually try to pick up where the movie kind of left off and try to round that out. That being said, from I think the 5th episode forward till the 12th episode, really, they try to do something, and first reference to the Idolmaster in this review, but they do something very akin to the Idolmaster. It feels, I would say the implementation is dubious at best. The way they actually do it is not as gracious as the Idolmaster did, and is not really well developed. But again, the Idolmaster had 25 episodes, where this only has 12 with no extras. That being said, again, they do very similar to the Idolmaster. They actually get each of the girls one episode to actually show them off, to actually see what they do outside of idol work and what are their ambitions, their desires, and so on and so forth. And from that knowledge, this model of actually showing off the girls, we get to actually know them somewhat well. At some point in the middle of the season, after I'll talk more about this a bit later, but I think it's either the second or the third episode, Junko actually reappears with the money, with most of the money, really. I think they mentioned she doesn't actually have the whole of the money she took, but that's a detail not really important for the plot. The thing is, they actually get 2 small victories in the ongoing of the season, because they actually have 2 recurring kind of jobs. So one of them is they have a 1-minute segment in a radio show. I don't actually understand how that is even like viable, but whatever. And the other one is they appear on TV. So half the girls do a weather report while wearing animal costumes, and the other half go to restaurant reviews or something like that. This episode especially is an episode where they try to show off Minami a lot. It's basically her episode, really. So we see her situation, how she came to be an idol, what she does outside of idol work, and so on and so forth. And from then on, we get a bit of her backstory and the development that you would expect. Somewhat. Let's say I'm being generous here and saying that there is development, but some of these do not. But whatever, I'm getting sidetracked. So we have these two like recurring kind of themes going, that they have the radio show and the TV studio, so they actually get to have some exposure in their regional, let's say, place. So they operate in Sendai specifically, so they actually have exposure there. And from then on, the thing kind of goes on to work in a somewhat good way. So from then on, we get more of the presentations for the girls, while also having and this is a thing they keep on doing for the most part in this whole season until episode 10, is that they drip feed this tension that builds up inside the group, mostly between Yoshino as the leader and Mayu as the main girl of the series, really, because she was the center of I1 Club. I1 Club, if you don't remember, is the giant idol group that is basically their rivals. They're antagonists for the series for the most part. And basically, right, so there is this whole thing that, and this is something that appears a bit later in this season and is a major thing that holds back the group as a whole, and comes to be a cathartic moment when it's resolved. That is why Mayu quit being in I1 Club when she was the first center. So basically, she was the top dog of the whole group, but she chose to quit for a reason that nobody knows, and she hasn't actually told anyone, even inside Wake Up Girls. So there's this mystery that is fed throughout the whole of the season till episode 10, and then episode 10 we basically resolve it. Episode 10 specifically is the episode focusing on Kaya. That is the actual, I will say, it was the best episode in the series until that point. I think episode 10 was actually well executed, well written, and well executed considering all the constraints they have, because it actually shows really sentimental, really emotional side of the story. Really humanizes the character of Kaya specifically, and in general I think that episode itself is the best episode overall. With that said, we have, so from episode 4 to episode 10, we have the development of most of the girls. I'll say that they tried to do something on episode 11 to develop the last girl, that was Yoshino, but I do not count it because it doesn't actually show her plight really. It's just one situation that they get into and it is resolved really easily. So I will not count that. So for me, she's still lacking one episode, but that's a detail I will enter a bit later. So the whole thing kind of works like that. So we have first this overarching drip feeding of the Mayu arc. We have the individual arcs for each of the girls, and besides that, we have two other things that I need to talk about. The first one, and the most important one really, is the presentation of the villains or the antagonists, whatever you want to call it, I1 Club. So we have actual footage, we have moments inside of I1 Club to show what goes on inside the biggest dog, inside the biggest fish in the pond. What is their formula for success? Why are they so big as an idol? And I would just say it's pretty dystopian. I think they went really over it because I can't really imagine that something like that happens. So it is something so outlandish, like the girls have to train for, I don't know, upwards of 8 hours a day, something like that, on dance moves and just singing and stuff, and you just can't do it every day, like, come on. And also they have this really, I think they really wanted this to feel like inhumane, but it is so over the top that the suspension of disbelief really cracks in that part, that they have this kind of elimination process that they keep on evaluating the girls even when they are training. So basically they have trainees and candidates for entering I1 club training with them for God knows how many months, and they are still evaluating them. If they fail, they just go with the like ID numbers, I don't actually know, and say, oh, you don't need to come back tomorrow. And then you see the girls like crying on the ground and doing shit. It is really like over the really, it is inhumane, and something like that would be a terrible situation to work with, but still it's really outlandish. I don't actually think that something like that's real. I hope that's not, because if it is, like, goddamn. But that is to say, right, the whole thing kind of feels really, really out there. They didn't actually need to be so fantastic with it, let's say. They didn't actually need to exaggerate so much. Again, talking about the Idolmaster. Idolmaster had an antagonist, but their antagonist at the release, they had like a motto, they had like a way they operated. Things they did were kind of directly against the girls, where I1 is not really directly against. But the thing kind of doesn't sit in the same lane, you know? We have antagonists of two different enemies here, and for the most part they are really different in many, many ways, but it doesn't really feel like the villain, you know? You wanted to actually introduce the villain, and it doesn't really feel like the villain. It feels really weird. But with that being said, we have this presentation of I1, and then we have more development towards the end that I1 gets involved, because at some point the girls are basically, let's say, picked up by a independent producer that basically does music and trains girls and whatever, called Hayasaka. I don't actually remember his first name, whatever. And he trains the girls for the most part. He's really let's say for the most part a dictator at the beginning. He has this really strict, really difficult to follow protocol and training and sessions and dancing and stuff, and all his songs he chose for the girls to train are really hard, and they need to actually do multiple shows in certain days, and the whole thing kind of goes on from there. It's basically this part where Hayasaka enters the scene is basically a huge training montage, and one of the episodes is the ID episode, let's say, but basically the whole thing kind of goes that way. This is the involvement of I1. There is also the involvement of the girls of I1, because at some point one of the girls that was the original rival of Mayu, competing for being the center of I1, she basically challenges her to actually, they end up in a competition, and she basically challenges her to win the competition, and let's just say she comes out as more of a rival rather than an enemy. She helps them when they need it, and that's pretty okay. That's a okay development, really, but it feels kind of shoot in a lot, especially the part where she helps. It really, don't know. I'm trying to skirt around this because I don't want to spoil what the fuck happens at the end of the anime, but the thing is, right, the situation is so like minor in a way. At the same time, it's minor but not really. But if with the solution they presented, I don't actually think we needed help, you know. That's the thing. The help comes more of a token, more to fulfill a role, rather than actually being the help, because I think the help they actually presented her, the solution to the problem that they actually found, is not a solution that really needed the help. They could have like resolved by themselves. That is all to say, I1 Club has a bigger presence in this anime rather than the movie, because the movie was just a mention, and now we get to see what I1's like. With that said, I will need to talk about the other one recurring character that appears from the movie till now to the very end, and for me, he's such a good character. I don't even know if he has a name really, but from the movie he already appears when he's like Mayu's biggest fan, and when he finds out that she's working with Wake Up Girls, he chooses to be an otaku, a huge fan of Wake Up Girls. And at some point he gets 3 more guys to actually do it, and when they present, they are there in the first row actually cheering them on, gassing them up. It is really, really funny and really, really nice because it feels good. I think really they are an insert for the audience, because I saw myself there. That's the thing, right? When I saw them cheering the way they did for the girls to actually present, they are like in this huge stage actually presenting to a live audience of I don't know how many thousands, and being live streamed, the whole thing, and they going there really hard, gassing them up. It felt like an insert for the audience, because at the point that you start rooting for these girls, you are that guy. You are like cheering them on and gassing them up. It's really, I love that guy. Oh my god, I really love that guy. But that's the overarching story. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of the whole thing. First thing that I need to say, the first job that they get on episode 2, and I think one more episode later on, carries the same problem that the movie had and the anime kind of has a lot at the beginning. They cut it up in the middle, and at the end I kind of started to see it again, but I don't actually know if it was me or really they changed from one point to the other. But it has a really high percentage of fan service for no reason. The first thing is, the first job is that the girls have to sing in I don't actually know what the hell that was. I think it's a spa just for men. I don't actually know. They have to sing for a bunch of old men drunk, and the guys are drunk, not the girls. The girls are underage and wearing bikinis for no apparent reason whatsoever. There is a point there where it kind of becomes harassment, but I'll not touch that, you know. It is not great for the platform. But the thing is, it gets weird. It gets really, really weird. And at the end of the episode, even to the point that I think Mayu had a really big breakdown on that, because she actually started to cry because the whole situation is so fucked up. It becomes really hard to watch on that. Not only like embarrassment by proxy, but also the whole scene kind of feels really misplacing that anime, but also to the point that at the end of the episode we get the reappearance. I think the end of the second episode, beginning of the third, we get the reappearance of Junko. She basically beats up the guy who contracted them, gets their money was worth, and basically the guy doesn't appear anymore. It's not important really. She just comes out of the woodwork, beats the guy up, gets the money, and goes home. The thing is, from that point on, I think the fan service kind of dials down a bit. I think that when they actually start the TV program, they actually have one more instance of they didn't need to actually be using bikinis for this, but then again the story kind of works up to that point. So next thing is the introduction of Hayasaka as the producer. So they get this really weird contract where Hayasaka has total control on the management of Wake Up Girls, and then he starts pounding them with training concerts, and as the girls are not really professionals at this point, they are really just beginning, they don't actually have many songs still, they start to crack and through stress and so on and so forth. And one of the people that actually come out really torn by that is Heidi, because also known as Haruka at home, but still, because she can't like keep up with the other girls. She's the most like normal of the girls. She's the, let's say, ordinary high school girl of Japan. She doesn't actually have any accolades in sports or anything related to idol work, and so she kind of drags everybody down, though she doesn't want to do it. And then we have an arc that takes, I think, 2 episodes in her case to actually complete, where Airi is basically called out by Hayasaka, and he basically says, don't you want to become just a fan and not a part of the group? And it is something to that effect. The thing is, he basically wants her out, and he delivers the line. It is really hard. The girls start to actually discuss between themselves. So the whole thing where, do we abandon Airi or do we not? Is the group truly wake up girls if we don't have Airi? And the whole thing kind of goes in that direction until the point where they go talk to Airi, cry a lot. The scene is kind of cute. I have a really hard time watching this because I'm so weak, and at some points I really felt like crying. I didn't actually, but at some points in this anime they actually got me. It was really weird, but still, we have this. So Hayasaka comes out as, let's say, a trainer for the bigger leagues, so much so that he is the one that enters them into the idol competition, idol tournament, to actually present in Tokyo and so on and so forth. The girls do a good work to the finals, where I don't want to talk about it because it is, let's say, I don't actually like that ending because I think it's a cop-out to actually do that, but whatever. Still, that's basically the Hayasaka thing. And now I want to talk a bit more of more abstract stuff. It is really hard to me to give a good like example talking about it. I would need to actually show everything that I'm thinking, but let's try with this. This anime has a really huge problem with pacing, and not really in that the things feel rushed or they are too slow. It's not that. The thing is, and we can enter in the journey of the hero and the way the story is written to climax, peak, down, climax, and so on and so forth. That's not the thing I'm discussing here. But the thing is, right, so the overarching story throughout the anime is that the girls, they suffer a lot, they struggle a lot to get their wins, and when they get their wins, it is a good thing. With that said, there's this one thing that, again, the Idolmaster did it really well. Love Live actually does it really well too. The thing is, the girls have to struggle. That is part of the going of the story, the whole narrative. It is that's part of the thing. What I can't get behind is that they get way too much struggle, in my opinion. I think they struggle for the best part of 9 episodes, I think the only real victory they have is on the 10th episode, because before that they only have obstacles with more obstacles, and everything piles up. To episode 10, some of the obstacles just disappear out of thin air. Like, what the fuck? So basically they start with suffering through their first job, which was really terrible. Then the second job, really terrible. Then they have the radio program and the TV, which were wins, okay, small wins, something. And then from then on, we just get like the terrible thing after terrible thing. So we have I1 presenting on Sendai. We have basically Mayu becoming really. We have before that, we have the whole of the ID arcs where ID goes through the whole thing of nearly being booted out of the group, more or less, to then coming back, which is not really something certain, is more something like, yeah, we can give you another chance. And the whole thing kind of piles up, and at some point, and this is a thing, Nanami specifically, I don't actually think she has an episode for herself, but the moment that she says the line of, yeah, like, after this meeting I need to talk to you about something, I already knew it would be something like I want to quit. Like I knew it from the bottom of my heart. I fucking knew it. It was like, at that point it became really, really foreshadowed. Not really foreshadowed, but it was not foreshadowed. But at the same time, I knew that they would pluck another obstacle out of thin air because, we have so many plot points that need resolution. Let's throw another one in there. And lo and behold, that was exactly what happened. She wanted to quit because she wants to focus on studying to enter a specialized high school for music. And from then on, the whole thing kind of goes the way it do. Though they don't actually, they resolve it really badly when Mayo actually explains the whole thing that happened to her on episode 10. And then Nanami basically just, you know, boy, whatever. I try next year. I will stay here with these girls, whatever. And that's basically resolves the whole plot point in like, I don't know, 10 seconds of animation. What the fuck was that? And basically it's a whole mess. They struggle so much that it became somewhat hard to actually watch. I was dragging my feet in watching one episode a day because it just didn't feel good, you know? The girls are suffering 24/7 through 9 episodes. I nearly dropped this, all things considered. I just thought to myself, if they don't start winning a bit, what's the point of watching this? Are they actually going to do all the winning in the movie? Do I actually need to watch this much setup just to watch the movie and say, oh yeah, they got it, whatever they wanted? Like, come on, man. And so there is this huge problem with the amount of struggle they have to do. I think it went really overboard with it all. I don't actually think they needed to throw so much stuff at the same time. I think they could like manage it and resolve some things before and so on and so forth. But with that said, this is an anime from 2014, like, what the hell? I'm discussing this because I want to, and the whole thing kind of goes that way. So for the most part, I talked about everything really. The main thing about this anime, right? So the animation, and now for my opinion in the last few things, the animation continues to be whatever. I don't actually like the style. It's a bit better than the movie. You can see that the animation becomes a bit better as the anime goes on, which all things considered is competent. Nothing to write home about. I would not recommend this anime for the animation, but I have seen worse. The art style continues the same. It feels the same way. The same thing I talked when talking about the movie. Same thing here. Same AB. Nothing really changed. I really think they wanted to do a longer season, but they couldn't get their time, and so they did the movie. That's my theory. I don't know. That movie is way too short to actually be a movie in my opinion, but that's not the case. After that, I need to talk about the presentations, whatever. I feel like they wanted at some points to do something like the other master did with their pen out shots and so on and so forth, but they didn't accomplish that. There are a lot of scenes with the girls walking that I feel like they wanted to do something else with them, but it doesn't actually come across. Like, it is just them walking. There's nothing special. But still. And for the last thing, it's the music. So basically, for the music, there are only 2 songs really for this whole anime. The first song that they presented in the movie, that I don't actually remember the name, which is a banger. I think that song is really nice. Then we have the opening, and it is the same song that they sing at the end of the 12th episode. I think it's called 7 Girls War. Really nice song. Not better than the movie. I think the movie is better, really. But it's still good. I think it's okay. The ending, it's whatever. Not really my cup of tea. Didn't hit me as hard. And with all that said, all this rant, all this mess that I'm calling a review, I think that's basically it. The anime has bones, it has potential, but the execution is so. I wish it was better, but that's about it. So thank you guys for listening, thank you guys for watching, depending on the platform you're in. Please like, please share, please follow, and I hope to see you guys around for next time. Bye.